I'm really enjoying this book. Taking a turn. I just finished it and I'm crying. It was rough. I decided to start a little vlog style video where I read popular romance books that I haven't read before. These are just like generally popular. A lot of them are from TikTok. I'm into TikTok now. It was a slow progression. I've talked about it a couple times now on my channel, but of course I've been reading more romance since it's getting nice out. It's officially spring. It's that time of year when you kind of want to snuggle up on the couch with a book, yet it's still nice outside, so you just want something like lighthearted and fun. I'm gonna try not to read as much romance as I did last year because I burnt myself out. By the end of the summer, I was just like done with romance, could not stand it. I really like romance books as audiobooks. I don't have to think about them too much. If there's a book where I have to think about it a lot, like a fantasy book or whatnot, then I have to read that physically. But yeah, really love romances as audiobooks. I usually listen to Christina Lauren. That's kind of my go-to, and sometimes I'll give other authors a chance. But yeah, I'm really excited to discover more authors and maybe more like subgenres of romance that I haven't tried before. Like I usually go for that super lighthearted contemporary romance. Sometimes there will be smut, but it's very little, and just super light, fluffy. You don't get attached to the characters. I don't normally read series or anything like that, usually just standalones. But yeah, I'm really excited to try out these books. I'm not saying them, I'm just putting them on the screen here because I don't actually know what they're gonna be. I know what the first one's gonna be because I'm about to talk about it, but I want to be able to show you what books are gonna be in this vlog without me actually knowing. Because yeah, I have a couple on my mind, but I think I'm gonna be doing a readathon in April, so I just wanna keep my options open for now. So yeah, if you wanna see what I thought about any of these books, I'm going to leave some timestamps down below in case you want to skip to that book. Maybe you haven't read one or something like that. So with that being said, the first book I picked up is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. So I just started this audiobook. I am a couple chapters in, can't say too much about it, but I will go over my first impressions so far. So I discovered this book through Chandler Ainsley. First impressions of this book so far are not great, to be honest. I had just finished reading a book before this one. It was the audiobook I listened to before this one, actually, that I'm also going to talk about, but I've kind of done this in the wrong order because I'm talking about the second book I read first instead of the first book. But you guys have already seen what the book is by now. So it is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, I think is her name. I won't go in detail about this book yet. Basically why I don't have a good first impression of this book is because the setup is exactly the same as The Simple Wild, and I did not like that book. Spoiler, I'll talk about it later in this vlog, but I did not like The Simple Wild. It's very well loved, very well hyped. Romance readers everywhere have read this book, and I didn't like it. And yeah, so this new book is setting up the exact same. The girl is from like a city. The main girl lives in LA. She is forced to go to the Pacific Northwest for a situation that involves her father that she did not grow up with, and she's very, you know, rich, has a really good life, loves her life, and doesn't want to go up there. Ends up meeting and having a relationship with a guy that has a really dangerous job. So it's the exact same setup. I'm just praying that it doesn't turn out like The Simple Wild. At this point, I feel like the author read The Simple Wild and was like, I'm just gonna write the same book. Or maybe she was like, I'm gonna write the better version of this book. Let's hope it's the second one. So yeah, so far, not that great, but I'm not very much into it. It just has the exact same setup. And I don't know why this, like, do people like this setup? Is it like the easiest way to get a really classy, rich social media type girl with a really broody man, like really manly man, is in construction, a fisherman, a pilot, guy like works on the home, like he's really handy. I'm not very handy, as you can see. I don't even know how to describe it, but I definitely don't like this setup. I know now because I did not like The Simple Wild. So we'll see where this goes. I'm hoping it goes pretty well. I feel like Chandler is really harsh at reviewing books, specifically romance books, and since she just loved this, I feel like I should probably love it. And I've seen it on TikTok like 5 times since then. So I just feel like it's definitely a hyped up book. I am just hoping it ends up being different from The Simple Wild. Mava just wanted to make her appearance on the vlog because it's her channel too. Say hi. So I have finished It Happens One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and it was actually really good. I can't decide between a 4.5 or 5 stars, but it was a nice, fresh breath of romance air, I think is what I said on my Goodreads review. Yeah, really liking Tessa Bailey and her writing style and the decisions she made and all that. So I'll definitely be giving Tessa Bailey more of a read in the future. I think I am going to continue with this romance series, which I never do. Like, I don't think I ever have, actually. Yeah, I don't think I ever have. Yeah, I was just like nicely surprised. Sorry about my egg of a head right now. My hair's in a bun and it's falling down. The book had quite a bit of smut, way more than I'm used to. I do not read that much smut. Usually when I read like smutty books, I guess they're more like semi-smutty, where it's just like not the biggest part of the romance, but it's like kind of there, if that makes sense. So this was definitely more smutty than I'm used to and more than I expected. It was like 60% smut, I would say, but I still did like the characters like individually. I liked the romance of the two, the characters together. I've never read a book where the guy is just like super pining for the girl like that, and I really liked it. Usually it's more like up in the air, but the love interest wanted her from the beginning type of thing, and he was a widow and hadn't been with someone else in like 7 years, and that was just so interesting to me. I've never read something like that, and I love the Pacific Northwest. I've never been. I'm actually going for the first time this year, but I love that it was set there and that he was a fisherman. And I just really loved Brendan, like all together. Like he was my favorite part of the book by far. But yeah, as you guys know, I did not think I was going to like this at first because it was way too similar to The Simple Wild. It's the exact same setup. I just hated The Simple Wild so much. I hated everything about it, but I really did not like the main character. She just complained the whole time. But Piper was surprisingly different. She ended up not being that typical LA girl who has super rich parents and is into social media and doesn't know anything about life and just complains about everything. She was great, honestly. Like that wasn't her entire character, which I really liked and appreciated. But I would say the reason why I would give it 4.5 instead of 5 stars is because nothing really happened like around them. So you definitely have a little bit going on within the town and, you know, with her sister and stuff, but it kind of happens abruptly like towards the end. So the beginning has a little bit of her like familial stuff, but then it drops off in the middle. It's just about her and Brendan, which I mean, it is a romance, but then all these like small little things happen towards the end. Yeah, I'm still excited to read the next book though and see if like more comes from that or if it just continues to be like just about them. I really like the take on like people changing for other people, like within relationships and like what's healthy and what's not. And honestly, the smut was really good. I think this is the best smut I've ever read in a book, but like I said, I don't read smut very often. So yeah, it was a great book, worth the hype. I've seen it on YouTube and then even more on TikTok. I feel like I will definitely be making TikToks featuring this book. But yeah, it was really good. Really surprised at how much I like it, and I will be reading the second one. Guess what I just started? Ooh, can you even see it? It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So this is my first Colleen Hoover book ever. I'm really excited to give her a try because if y'all have been here on YouTube for a minute, then you know that Colleen Hoover was kind of what's the word, like blacklisted from like content creators on YouTube, and I can't remember why because I just wasn't in the know. I didn't read any of her books, obviously. I think it had something to do with like toxic characters or like things that were really problematic. I know she writes more like hard-hitting romance, which usually is not something I read. It's not usually my thing. I read very light, fluffy romances. If you saw what I just read, you know that that was the most smut I've ever read in a book. So I'm definitely widening my romance horizons with this little experiment, I guess. I've heard from several people that this is their favorite Colleen Hoover books or one of their favorites. And right now I'm on chapter 8 out of 38. I'm listening to the audiobook. And thoughts so far, I guess I should finish my thought from earlier, but Colleen Hoover has made a reappearance. She's been born from the phoenix ashes, reborn because of TikTok, along with several other authors and books that were very popular on YouTube years ago, like literally 5 years ago, before I was even here, or just within the past couple years. They'll be really, really popular, and then they drift off and no one talks about them anymore because they were so popular at a point that everyone knows of them. But so many people on TikTok, so many creators, and even just like new readers discovering BookTube because of BookTok, like they just don't know that BookTube reaches so many more. I hate saying the word BookTube because I don't consider myself a booktuber, but BookTube really does reach more readers nowadays because of BookTok. Anyways, before I get into that, just know that I never really gave Colleen Hoover a shot before because of all of the drama that surrounded her. Like, I just didn't find it to be worth it. Like, there were so many people that hated her and hated her books that I just didn't even think about giving her a chance. But back then I wasn't even into romance as much anyway, so I would have never even picked up her books anyways. So yeah, I just kind of like tossed her to the side, just thought she was like an older author that no one cared about anymore, I guess. So now we're back, we're here, we're reading It Ends With Us, and thoughts so far. I'm really enjoying this book. Like I said, I've never read more like hard-hitting romance, and I didn't think I would like it, but I mean, this book started off kind of difficult because the main character just attended the funeral of her father where she had to give the eulogy, and she really didn't want to because her father was a terrible father. He was a terrible husband. He abused his wife, her mom, and her mom always kind of like stuck around and she never understood why, yada yada yada. It started off very like hard-hitting and deep, but then you have this like really fun, cute romance coming to life, and so you have this like really hard-hitting part of the book that's like kind of there, it's not like too prevalent, and then you have this cute romance and all this like other like cute fun stuff happening, and I don't know, it like feels more realistic to me. I feel like Colleen Hoover haters will hate that I say that. But yeah, I think I just see the main girl as more of an actual person, because usually in romances, it's so light and fluffy that it really is unbelievable. Like, we all have our favorite tropes we want to see, and the authors give them to us. There's just not a lot put into like actual characters. Like, everyone knows that. Romances usually don't continue because of that, because there's just nothing really to read. There's no like actual evolution of the characters, or if there is, then it might actually be worth reading, but yeah, you get me. So it's different than what I'm used to, and I'm enjoying it, and I really like the love interest so far. He's a doctor. That's why I'm actually picking up this book, because I'm doing a readathon. I'm doing the magical readathon this month. So I literally Googled books with doctors, and it was something that came up. But yeah, so far so good. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to get myself like too excited and then be disappointed, but I am expecting this to be good because every Colleen Hoover fan loves this book. So yeah, I just hope it's really good. I've read books where the guy is pining for the girl, but not a lot of them. Not like the last book I read, and in this one, the guy is pining for the girl again. He wanted her first, but he like won't have her because he's into like one night stands and she's into relationships. So he doesn't want to like hurt her or whatever. It's just interesting. Like, it's all just very different romance for me, and it just, so far it feels pretty realistic, besides the fact that her name is Lily Blossoms. It's like, and her middle name is like flower, like Lily Flower Blossoms, or like Lily Rose Blossoms or something like that. I was like, why? Like, why did we have to do that? Because it made it feel unrealistic when everything else feels realistic. All right, excuse my messy room in the background. I don't feel like cleaning it up for a single clip, but I'm about 30% of the way through It Ends With Us, so I wanted to do kind of a quick little update, I guess, because it is such a popular book that I feel like anyone who's watching this that has read the book probably wants more like real-time updates as opposed to like, oh, I finished the book, here's what I thought. I'm super surprised right now that there's kind of a love triangle being created. I did not think this was going to have a love triangle just because of what we've encountered so far with Lily and Ryle. I keep trying to figure out, since I'm listening to the audiobook, I keep trying to figure out how you spell Ryle. Really liked the romance with Ryle, and then the more we've learned about Atlas, it's like really making me love Atlas at the same time too. And so, spoiler alert if you haven't read the book yet, I'm gonna do some spoilers here, so I guess go ahead and skip ahead if you haven't read the book and you don't want to be spoiled. But Lily runs into Atlas, you know, 9 years later or whenever it is, at this restaurant and he's a server. And it totally makes sense because he liked food, she liked plants, and so he's working at a restaurant. He's only a server. You would think like he'd be doing something else, but she owns a plant shop, and so it's just like not a meet cute, but like a coming back together again type of cute. And I know people love this trope. I'm not like a love or hate type of person for this trope, but I really liked what was happening with Ryle, and I loved half of the story is like a romance and then half of it is hard hitting. And then I realized like the hard hitting part was slowly turning into the Atlas side. It's almost being set up now as a love triangle, and I just did not expect that. So it's a couple chapters later, probably a few chapters. I think I'm well over halfway through this book, and it's taken a turn. I don't even know how to introduce this or talk about this, but I get the hard hitting part of Colleen Hoover, and I feel like I'm explaining it wrong, but just like the really trigger warning content, I guess, because the last time I think I updated you guys, I said I liked the balance of like romance, the trigger, hard-hitting emotional stuff, and wasn't really sure why a love triangle was happening. I know why a love triangle is happening. So here's your spoiler warning if you want to go ahead and cut ahead. I don't know how I feel about this book right now because all of this triggering stuff came on very suddenly and it has not let up. It's gone from 0 to 100 real quick, and like 3 or 4 chapters back to back is just like more and more stuff added on to what's already triggering. It doesn't trigger me personally, just the general really triggering parts of this book. I feel like I don't really need to explain it any more than that, but I've never had to explain something like this before because I don't typically read these types of books. We know that when we visit Lily in the past, her mother has been in an abusive relationship with her father, so she has seen her mother be abused all her life. They make excuses and lies to protect the father from getting in trouble. I think he's the mayor of the town, and she's always been like super headstrong and will not lie for him or doesn't want to, and has always been in this situation, and so abuse is super triggering for her. And of course, Ryle has an incident with her where he hurts her. He ends up pushing her and she hits her head off the cabinet and is bleeding. At the same time, he cut his hand, and it's a big deal because he's a neurosurgeon. He needs his hands. And so they're both hurt. And I just got super frustrated because Lily put herself in the same position as her mom where she starts to make excuses for this man for hurting her. But she gave him the benefit of the doubt and said, you know, maybe it was just like a one-time thing and he really didn't mean to. He seems really sorry and it'll probably never happen again. If it does, I'm out. I'm out at 5,000. So I feel like that is sensible, I guess. I feel like that's what most people would come to. It just got really weird and uncomfortable for me when they started banging right after. And when she goes to the bathroom, she has blood all over her because Ryle was still bleeding from his hand. Gets blood all over her, and she said it was in her hair, it was on her face, all over her body, and I just like wanted to throw up. Granted, I have a weak stomach, but I 100% wanted to throw up. They go back to the restaurant and Atlas sees the cut on her head and he almost gets in a fight with Ryle because he knows that he's hurt her, and of course Lily is protecting him. And so at first I'm like, okay, this can go either of two ways. Ryle is not actually abusive and this is just like a really triggering thing for her. She's gonna learn a lot about herself. It's still leaning towards like Atlas's endgame for her. I mean, come on, really. I'm not even sure if he actually has a girlfriend. He's supposed to have a girlfriend named Cassie. I don't even know if I believe that. And I don't know which way it's gonna go with Ryle, if he's actually gonna be abusive or not. But then it continues. They almost get into a fist fight, and then directly after, basically Ryle pushes her again down the stairs. So I'm at the chapter where she's realizing that he did push her down the stairs and he's trying to say that she fell because she hurt her head again. So I'm really interested to see where this goes. There's also a part in there where Atlas confesses to Lily that he wanted to kill himself originally. That's why he went to that house, that abandoned house. But then he saw her in the window and decided to not kill himself. I have a couple feelings about this. They're adding another like kind of triggering, emotional, hard-hitting layer to this book again with suicide. I mean, it felt like a lot. It was like abuse, then a violent fight, suicide, then more abuse, and it's just coming on very strong. I don't know if this is how Colleen Hoover books are in general, where it's like very zero, happy-go-lucky, and then all of a sudden it's 100 and it's just super triggering, hardcore content. Let it be known, I can read stuff like this. I can read triggering content. It's just very abrupt and very startling that it went from 0 to 100, and so I'm just super taken aback, and I was really enjoying this book up until this point, and so I'm just like feeling all sorts of things, especially since the abuse has happened again. Now I'm just, you know, really, I don't like Ryle at all, and I'm starting to not like Lily either, because she literally is becoming her mom, and that's all she really thinks about and complains about is, you know, what happened in her childhood, yet she's doing the same exact thing. So I'm interested to see where her character goes with this, if this is gonna get like super intense and super triggering, and it's just definitely not what I expected from a romance, unless ultimately Atlas is her endgame. And this motherfucker, excuse my language, killed his brother. Y'all, I just want to throw up reading this book. I'm sorry. I know everyone wants me to love Colleen Hoover because everyone loves Colleen Hoover, but I see why people hate her at the same time, because I just want to throw up. Like, it just keeps getting worse and worse in my head. Like, I have a migraine right now, and it's literally listening to this audiobook makes me want to throw up. She just excused everything that's happened to her because he killed his brother on accident when he was younger, and now every time he gets angry he blacks out. And on top of that, when he killed him, he tried to put him back together like a doctor. Y'all, this book is disturbing. I gotta go. I just finished it and I'm crying. I'm gonna go collect myself, but I had to document this. Alright, sorry if you can hear the AC. I'm in my car right now, and it just got really hot, and I'm in a sweater, so I definitely need the AC on. It was like 50 degrees this morning, and then it's noon, it's like 65. That keeps happening. It's that time of year, and it's really annoying. But I think the last time I spoke with you, I was crying. Yeah, definitely got a little emotional there towards the end of It Ends With Us, and I don't really know how to conclude my feelings for this book. They're kind of conflicted, to be honest. I may just read you my Goodreads review in case you don't follow me on Goodreads, because I feel like it kind of sums up a general review of this book. Basically, I didn't know how to rate it. I didn't know how to review it, so I gave it a 3.5, and it seems like people will either give it like a 1 or 2 star or a 5 star, so I'm kind of the outcast here and giving it like an in-between rating. I did enjoy it. It's not that I didn't enjoy, you know, the characters and the plot and the storyline and the theme and all of that. I enjoyed all of it. It's just that I'm not on the hunt for books like this. I've always considered Colleen Hoover a romance author, and yes, her books are about romance. They always have romance in them, but I feel like, I mean, I've only read one of her books, so I can't really say much, but you know, if you read Colleen Hoover books, give me all of the details. Give me the inside scoop on Colleen Hoover below in her books, because I really want to learn more and just like be more aware of the author and their books, to be honest. But let me just say, okay, I'm not a pansy. I can read more hard-hitting emotional stuff. I do it all the time. I'm really interested to read My Dark Vanessa. I think I'm really gonna like that book, for example. But this just went kind of from 0 to 100, like 40% in, I think, maybe 50, and it just wasn't letting up. And since it came to such a shock to me, since I didn't know what this book was about, I didn't know anything about this book beforehand, besides the fact that it was a romance that featured a doctor. It just hit me by surprise. It made me very sick to my stomach. I have a very weak stomach in general, but I've never had a book make me feel this sick to my stomach before. So I feel like that probably says a lot. It was rough for me because it just wasn't letting up. It was kind of like, you know, back-to-back stuff, like I've already mentioned in this vlog. And so it was a lot for me. And so I definitely had to subtract at least a a couple, like 1 or 2 stars for that, because this is just not the content I'm looking for. It's not the content I want, but nothing against the rest of the book, nothing against the author. I really enjoyed the author's note at the end there, because I kind of had a certain viewpoint about this book, and then once I read the author's note, it gave me more clarity. Like I really do feel like this is a story, this is a lot of women's stories out there, and it probably goes unheard most of the time because of their silence. And I think it's important to read this type of stuff. It's just that, just to put it bluntly, and spoilers of course, but I can't, it's hard for me to read rape scenes. It's hard for me to read abusive scenes, especially like while it's with sex, like not in a sexy way, like in a they are getting abused type of way, just like violence. I just don't want to read about violence. I don't want to read about rape, stuff like that. I'm just gonna read my review because I feel like I'm probably not making a whole lot of sense, but maybe I am, I don't know. I have no idea how to rate and review this, so I think I'm settling with 3.5. Let it be known that I had no idea what this book was about, so I was not prepared for the content, and boy was not looking for this kind of romance at all. I now understand the controversy behind CH books, and I'm uncertain if I'll continue, not because I was triggered or disliked it, but because it's not the type of content I particularly am on the hunt to read. I did, however, find that the story is the story of many women that most likely goes unheard, and for that I do not know how to rate it. Most of the time I felt sick to my stomach and had to take a break, but there's no faults to the writing, characters, or plot, so I can't fault the book much, since I especially didn't prepare myself beforehand. I enjoyed the book, but also didn't since I felt sick. I don't know. I'm very conflicted and may give a different book a shot in the future, but definitely not soon. If any Colleen Hoover experts want to guide me to the books that are less triggering / intense, please do. So yeah, I think I'm gonna conclude it there. I still feel like kind of like confused, or at least like unaware of Colleen Hoover and her book, so I think I'm gonna have to give her another try at some point, but it will not be soon. I'm about to start Her Body and Other Parties, that short story collection, and I know that's gonna be probably similar type of content, maybe not as intense, but I think after that I'll probably for sure need a break, and I just don't know with her books what is more fluffy and what's more intense, or if they're all like that, if they're all that like straight 50-50. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now, but here soon I will let you know my thoughts on The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I always want to say A.J. Tucker. It's my lunch break and I gotta get back to work now, so see you soon. Hi friends, okay, so finally time to talk about The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, the final book in this little romance reading vlog. I'm just pulling out my review so I don't forget anything, since I did read it a couple books back. So I gave this 2.5 stars. I think I rounded up on Goodreads 3 stars, but I put the first half as 0 stars, second half is 4. This book is so hyped up and I'm not sure why. So yeah, I guess I should start with that first. This book is not like an actual classic, like when it comes to classic books, but it's definitely one of those romance books that everyone knows about, everyone loves. It's like a staple in the romance genre community, I guess. So yeah, my hopes were pretty high for this one. My expectations were pretty high. I was very disappointed, just to go ahead and sum it up real quick. Didn't like the intro, didn't like the entire first half of the book. As it went on, I did like it a bit more. So basically our main character is from LA or New York, one of the two, but her dad is from a Pacific Northwest town, a coastal town. You can think of like Forks, that type of thing. Like I said earlier, It Happened One Summer had the same setup, but it was just done so much better. So this girl is very influencer-y, very like into fashion. She shows up in heels and a flat brim hat, I think is what you call them. And so of course the town is like judging her. It's basically a big familial thing. So her dad has cancer, but she really didn't grow up around him. He just wasn't really around since they were in 2 different places. So she's trying to spend time with him before he dies. Basically he is not going to live. It's like a for sure thing. So she goes up there to spend time with him, and basically the entire first like third of this book is her complaining about literally anything and everything. And I can't stand when the main character complains a ton. Characters in general complain a ton, because you know, you hear complaining every day, you know, in normal life. So you don't want to read a book where everyone's just like complaining, right? It's just not fun to read for me. So that was already off-putting. The setting just wasn't very enticing for me. The characters, I like absolutely no characters in this book stood out. They were all very boring, all very bland. Of course, you're just focusing on the main character and the love interest, and I did like the love interest, as you do in most romance books, I feel like, but yeah, just definitely didn't live up to a lot of the love interests I've read about in the past, I guess. When it comes to romance, this is definitely hate to love. The main two people hate each other, and then it forms into love, which y'all know I love hate to love. It's my favorite trope, but this was bad all around. Like, this is just, I hate to say it, but this just like isn't a good book. It's just not. I think the last half of the book really is what brought it up to a 2.5, because otherwise I probably would have gave it like 1 star, maybe 2 if I'm being nice. But when I say these two hate each other, like they are name calling each other, they despise each other like immediately just because they're so different, and it makes sense. Like, they're exact opposites. He's a manly man, he grew up in the wilderness, doesn't know what social media is, and she's this complaining little brat influencer type girl who likes fashion and doesn't want to be there. They're very opposite. I didn't like them individually. Them together towards the end I did like, but I definitely get why people like romantic interest where they are like the broody guy. Is that the right word? Because this is my first time kind of reading that sort of romance and love interest. I don't know what I'm saying. And I did enjoy it. I did like him, but yeah, I mean, he stole her luggage and hid it from her for a week, and then she cut off all his hair in his sleep to get back at him. Like, you don't really come back from that. Like, that's not when they liked each other. And then all of a sudden, right after that ridiculousness happened, they instantly fell in love. Like, it was literally a hate to a in love type of scenario, and nah. It didn't work for me. They were just so bad to each other, especially the guy. The guy treated the girl so bad that it was hard to root for them. And then when they instantly fell in love, like halfway through the book, or like 40% through the book, it made me not like it even more because I don't like insta love. I enjoyed the second half of this book, because I know this seems like a very negative review, but I did actually enjoy the second half of the book. It got better. I really liked what the characters evolved into. The main two characters. Couldn't care less about anyone else in this story, but I did like it, and I did debate whether I was going to continue. I don't think I will, just because I just don't care enough about anything regarding this book. Sometimes I think maybe I will continue. I don't know, probably not. Let me see if I'm forgetting anything. Super predictable. Yes, this is a very predictable romance, so if you don't like to predict things, then don't read this. I teared up at one point as well. Did I? Probably towards the end. First half is boring, second half is pointless. All of it was predictable. So yeah, that's kind of a good summary, I guess, of it all. Sorry if this vlog is super long at this point. I only read 3 romance books too. It's not like I read like 10. I don't know, like part of the way through I just really wanted to vlog my experience with my first Colleen Hoover book, so that's kind of what happened here. I spent more time on that one than the other books probably. Also, let me know if there's any other books you want me to read with like a theme, like a genre, or just really anything, a trope, any sort of theme where I read 3 books, whether they're like the most popular ones in the genre like I did with this vlog, or whatever it is. Let me know. Even give me some book recs if you want to, and I'll check them out. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this vlog, if you like reading vlogs, then please give this a thumbs up, and of course subscribe if you haven't already, if you feel like it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.